Okay, cool. So, welcome again. And before we start, I would like to make, we'll set certain ground rules first of all. So, the first rule would be if you don't understand anything at any point, please do interrupt me and ask me then and there. And if you have any doubts, just interrupt me and ask me then and there. And the session will be recorded, and the slides which I use here will be, available for you later after the session gets over. So let's go ahead. And let's first of all see what we'll be doing in session one. First, we look at installing and using Android Studio, and then we learn the basics of Kotlin programming language, and we'll look at how you can earn your first batch with Google. Moving on. First, installing Android Studio. So the download link for Android Studio is here. It's developer.android.com/studio. If you can just Google download Android Studio, and you will be pointed to this link. And you can download Android Studio, and you can install it in your computer. And I'm sure many of you would have already finished this process. I hope the rest of you also do that, and then you can. I'll just show you a little about Android Studio right now, but you can go to the intro page of Android Studio and you can learn a lot more from there. And it's not actually needed because most of the things that we'll be working on, will be covered here itself. But if you want to know a lot about, or if you want to learn something about Android Studio, you can go there and see what all features are there and what are interesting stuff that you can use to improve your productivity. So let's look at the Android Studio. Okay, so we can see the screen. This is the welcome screen of Android Studio. As you can see, if you have it installed, you'll end up in this screen, and you can create a new project. Is when you create a new project. Is there any doubts? Okay. So let's first of all don't worry about what these activities mean. Let's just click the empty activity first, and let this be as it is. Just give finish. You will have a fresh new activity, a new project that you can work on. Yeah, so this is your Android Studio basically, and this is the part on your right is project files of your project. So Android Studio is very resource intensive, and it would take a lot of time for you to work with it, for it to launch, for it to load successfully. So you'll need to have a lot of patience when you work with Android Studio. So here you have the main activity.kt, which is nothing but a Kotlin file, and the main activity is, as you'll come to learn, it is the main entry point of the Android app. Like you might have seen the main function in C++ or C. So the same way, Kotlin also has the main activity and main function. This is where your app goes in first of all by default. So let this Android Studio get loaded because this is the first time you create a new project. It usually takes time. In the meantime, let's look at our upcoming parts that we'll be learning. Okay. So this is done. We have installed Android Studio and we've successfully, created a project and we are now running a project. So let's move into the next part. We'll start with the basics of Kotlin. So as you've seen in the introductory session, Kotlin is a very powerful and it's a concise language, which is the official and recommended language for Android development. So you can see you can go to the official Kotlin site, which actually has a good tutorial, and it is highly recommended that you go through that tutorial once the session gets over. And you can also go to the Kotlin Cons website and you can complete all those exercises. And by you'll be having some 2 to 3 days time between this session and your next session. So before you come to the next session, make sure you have you complete as much as possible. You complete the Kotlin cones exercises as much as possible, and also make sure you go through the tutorial that is present in the Kotlin official site. So let's go straight into Kotlin basic syntax of Kotlin. Okay. So first of all, every language has some basic types like int, char, string, float, and like that. So what are the basic types that are commonly used in Kotlin? It's int, which is nothing but your integers, and long, which is nothing but integer with a very of very huge size. And float is nothing but your decimal numbers, and double is your decimal number with a huge decimal number. And char is nothing but your ASCII characters, which includes small a to small z and capital A to capital Z and numbers, etc. etc. And you'll also have the Boolean type, which is true or false, or it can be interpreted as 0 or 1. And sorry, I've missed the string part. Kotlin also has a string type, which has nothing but the string literal. Moving on, the variables in Kotlin, usually you would have seen, if you know languages like C++, C, Java, you would have seen that the variables are declared by using the data type and the variable name. But in Kotlin, we use the keywords val and var to declare variables. Like you can see in the left part of the slide, we have the function main, and you can see the word fun. The fun is a keyword for function. So if you want to define a function, you use the keyword fun. So looking at the variables pi, x, y, you can see that pi is declared as val, which means that it is immutable. So what is immutable? Immutable is something which cannot be changed. So val pi equals 3.14. So this pi cannot be changed or it cannot be reassigned to another value. You can also see var x equals 3.0 and var y equals 4.0. So you can see that the the basic types that I've mentioned,
We are not
that I
able to
mentioned
see
before.
anything here.
Sorry, you're not able to hear.
The see the screen is stuck. Stuck. Huh? We are just seeing installing Android Studio page only.
Okay, is it same for everyone?
I can see the basic syntax page.
Okay. Rohit Rasan, can you disconnect the call and come again and check if the screen is all right with you?
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so moving on. Yeah, like I was saying, the val pi equals 3.14 means that the variable pi, the value 3.14 cannot be changed with pi, and you cannot reassign some other value or some other data type to pi. And in C++ and C and Java, you might have known you declare a variable but like int x equals 3 or double x equals 3.0. But here you have var x equals 3.0. This just means that Kotlin can infer the type of the value, and it would assign that type to this variable. When you write var x equals 3.0, Kotlin would tell that this is of type double or float. The same way, where y equals 4.0, it would take it as double or float. Let's look at how it comes to that. If it's double or float later, it is not relevant here. And then let's move on to the next line. It's nothing but println. So what println does is it prints the value which is fed to it, and it prints another, breaks the line. Now I'm calling the which is a hypotenuse function that I've written on top, and I'm giving two arguments to this function, which is x and y, which we have already defined as 3.0 and 4.0. Let's come to the function hypotenuse. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Let's come to the function hypotenuse. You can see that the function has can take two arguments, which are x and y, and these arguments are of type double and double. And after that, after the hypo brackets close, you have another double, which is nothing but the return type of the function hypo. So like, in C or C++, you would have, if this is C or C++ or Java, you would have written double, hypo, and the, arguments of the function. But here, like we have in the variable declaration, you first declare it as a function using the keyword fun, and you give it a name, and you give it, you write the arguments that it's going to take, and then you state the return type of the function. And once we do that, we have this return kotlin.math.square root x into x plus y into y. So this is basically, the basic syntax of how Kotlin is going to be. And as you know, there is no default square root function in Kotlin. So that's why we have used, we have taken the square root function from the Kotlin math package. If you can't, understand that right now, it's completely fine. We'll look at it later. But I'm sure, I think you have some idea about what the basic syntax of Kotlin is going to look like. Yeah, now let's look at conditional statements. There are, as you know, in C, C++, in Java, there are two conditional statements. One is if and another is switch. Here we don't have a switch, but instead we have when instead of switch. First, let's look at if. In Kotlin, if is an expression. It's not a statement unlike C, C++, Java. It's an expression which returns a value. As you can see in the first line of code, function max of, it has two variables a and b. So this function, as we can, as you can infer, its aim is to return the value which is greater. So equals. Usually for a function, you state its name and you have open brackets. But in Kotlin, you can give an equal sign, which is nothing but it says the function to return that value, which is on the right side of the equal to sign. So once we get this clear, let's look at if a greater than b, a else b. So like I told, if in Kotlin is an expression, it returns a value. So usually, in C++ Java, you would have written if a is greater than b, return a, and else return b. But it's not required in Kotlin, as we know that if is going to return a value. So you just write a, else b. That's it. And let's look at when. So what when does is it matches its argument, that is obj, which is nothing but the argument given to when, and it runs this argument against all branches sequentially, which means first it goes to 1, checks if it's same, no, then it goes to the next one, which is hello, and then goes to is long, and until it gets a branch, till the condition is satisfied. If none of the condition is satisfied, it goes to the else block. You can see here there is something called is long and is not string. So is a keyword of Kotlin, which is used exactly for this type of cases. It's used to check if the argument which is being given it belongs to this data type. So let's say I call this when and I pass string to it, and it would check if it's 1. Let's say I'm passing a string called study jams. So is it 1? No, it's not 1. Is it hello? Is it the string hello? No, it's not it. And is it long? No, it's a string. So that block will also not be executed. It's not string. No, it's a string. So that block will also not be executed. Then it goes to the else block. So you'll get unknown as a return value. Let's look at another example also. Let's say I'm giving the object I'm passing 2 as the argument for this object. So it goes in, checks if it's 1. No, it's not it. Hello, no. Is it long? No, it's an integer. It's of the type int. So this block will also not be executed. Then comes is not string. Yes, 2 is of the type int and it is not string. So you'll get not a string as the return value. And you can see the arrow kind of thing, which is nothing but a hyphen and an arrow. So that is how you can write the when statements. Moving on, let's look at loops. As you know, there are two types of loops in most general languages, which is for and while. Before that, you need to know about list and lists in Kotlin. Don't confuse lists with arrays. We'll come to that later. First of all, let's look at list of. So the list of function would create a list which does nothing but have this apple, banana, and kiwi fruit in it. So this val items, which means that it is an immutable list of items. It contains apple, banana, and kiwi fruit. So for usually you would have seen for int I equals to 0, I less than a condition, and the increment operator I plus plus, and you have the block of for loop. But in Kotlin, it's not actually needed to write code like that. But instead, since you have a list of items, you can use the keyword in, like I've done here. And in what in does is it provides an iterator. Let's look at what an iterator is later. The first thing that you need to know is a for loop iterates through anything that provides an iterator. So if something provides an iterator for the for loop, it does the job. That's it. So here the in keyword gives an iterator over the variable items, and each item in the items is you can use them as item here, and you can print item. So that's how the iterator kind of for loop works in Kotlin. And moving on, let's declare a variable var index equals 0. And while index is less than items dot size, this is pretty straightforward. You print item at dollar index is dollar items of index. So this item index might be confusing right now, but it is nothing but template expressions. So template expressions, start with dollar. Template expressions are nothing but a piece of code that have to be evaluated. I wouldn't even call it a piece of code. It's a very, very small chunk of code. Like you can see a dollar items of index. If you look closely, the entire line is enclosed within double quotations, which means you might think that the Kotlin has to print the exact sentence which is present here as it is. But instead, what template expression do is when they see a dollar, they evaluate that expression. So if you evaluate dollars in index, you will get the index of the item, which is at that instance. So first Kotlin would print item at index. The first of all, the index value is 0. So Kotlin would print index at 0 is apple, and then in item at 1 is banana, item at 2 is kiwi fruit. So that is how template expressions work. So if you look at some more examples, you'll be clear. This would get clear to you. So
Excuse me,
yeah,
like I have a
yes,
doubt. Can you go to back
okay,
slide? That items dot size. What does that mean?
okay.
Like it's the
So
size of the
usually,
string or number?
no, no, it's the size of we have the items variable above it, right? It's a
Ah,
list of
yes.
items. So it gives the size of these items. I mean, size in the sense it gives three. The items list has got three items in it, three elements in it. So it gives the
Okay, okay,
size of the list.
okay.
We look at them in closely in upcoming session. But right now,
Okay.
yeah, I forgot to mention it. Thank you for asking.
Like
Uh, like I
one more
said,
doubt.
yeah, yeah.
What is dollar? Can you explain the dollar again?
Okay, sure. First of all, it's called template expressions. So template expressions are pieces of code, or I would call them as chunks of code, which can be put inside string literals. In C++ or Java, if you have a string literal which is enclosed by double quotes, okay, so the language is supposed to print them as it is, right? But in
Yes.
Kotlin, you have this extra special feature where you can add variables inside the string literals. If it's C++ or something, you should have split the item at, and then you should have closed the quotations. You should have a plus index plus open quotations, and then the rest of the string. Do you get my point? But
Yes.
instead,
Like
but instead in Kotlin, you don't have to close and keep concatenating variables. But instead, you put a dollar sign, and which just means that the compiler has to execute the next few lines or next block instead of just simply printing as it is. Is it clear
like
now?
what I understood is like first line will be printed as item at 0 is apple. Like is that
Yes,
right?
exactly. That is right.
Yeah. Then it's
Cool,
good.
yeah. Okay.
So could we say the dollar is a
Sir, I
format
had a doubt
specifier
in
here?
the
Sorry. One
sir.
at a time, please.
No,
Yeah,
is the dollar like a format specifier in C?
No, it's not like a format specifier. So a format specifier is required in C like languages because they're not very high level as much as Kotlin, and you need to specifically mention the format of what you're printing. It is not required in Kotlin because you can just give anything you want in this println block. What the dollar symbol does is
Okay.
it tells Kotlin that it is not simply a string that you are going to print. It is a piece of code. Okay. So first, let's look at the difference between a piece of code and a simple string. So a simple string does not have any, it's like a constant. It does not change. But here, the dollar index, it's going to change. I mean, if the index value is 1, it's going to print 1. And if it's 2, it's going to print 2. If the value of index is 3, item at 3 is going to be printed. So the dollar, what it says is it's not simply a fixed value, it's a piece of code that has to be evaluated before it is printed or before it is stored as a variable. You get it?
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay. Any other
I
doubt?
have a doubt.
sir, I had a
Okay.
doubt that how does the for loop exactly work? Because like what does it check first and then how does it proceed? I didn't get that.
Okay. So first of all, you have to understand what is the items variable. Okay. So as you know, it's declared as val, which means that it's immutable. You can't change it. And then list of. So what this list of keyword does is it creates a list. You can for now consider that a list is like an array. Fine. I'm not saying a list is an array. For your better
Yeah.
understanding, consider that a list is an array for now. Okay. So
Okay.
we have the items, which is nothing but an array, which has 3 strings in it, which is nothing but apple, banana, and kiwi fruit. Okay.
Yeah.
So in Kotlin, a for loop needs an it iterates through anything that provides an iterator. Fine. So for a for loop to work, it needs an iterator. How to create an iterator from the array? You use the word in. You use the keyword in. So in creates an iterator. Fine. So what this iterator does is, it first takes the first element and gives it in the place where I have written item in the for. Fine. So this item now becomes apple. So the job of this iterator is to give the first element to the variable name that is to the left of in, which is nothing but item here. So apple is sent to item first, and then it's printed. Println item. It's printed there. Fine. Then once this statement is executed, the iterator then takes banana and it puts in item. And then it takes kiwi fruit and then it puts an item. So one by one, this is the job of an iterator. And there are various ways you can create an iterator in Kotlin. You can also, we look at range and all. It's pretty interesting. So right now, if you're clear with this, we can move to the next slide.
So sir, that
I have a doubt. Like
that item we didn't have to declare first, right? For the iterator to put it in that.
Sorry? Yeah, no. We don't have to declare that. It's like inferred by Kotlin.
We can use
case
any of item, right?
Sorry?
We can use any word instead of item there.
Yeah,
right?
you can use any word. Like it can also be I. It can also be whatever you want. It can be X in items and println X. You can have whatever you want there. Just because it's easier to understand, I just wrote for item in items. You print item.
Thank you, sir.
You don't have to call me sir. Just call me Mario. It's completely fine. We're all here to learn. Okay. So someone else was asking some doubts.
Same which he asked, I asked. Like I was
Okay.
about to ask.
Okay, cool. So I think we can move on. Okay, yeah.
So how would we print dollar itself if dollar expresses template expressions?
Okay, that's a really good question. So do you know how do you print there are some /n. Do you know what /n in C++ and Java?
Yeah, we
Yes,
use
an escape
sequences.
sequence.
Yeah, so how do you print /n in C++? Like you want to print /n, but if you do print, cout /n, it's gonna print a new line, right?
Yes.
I think we can use double slash to get a slash.
Yeah, exactly. So like the same way you use that in Kotlin as well.
Okay, so we have to put double
Fine.
dollar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, moving on. Okay, so this is the basic, Kotlin stuff that I wanted to teach you people first. And you can go to this course, and this is where you would, there are a very few, basic Kotlin questions that they have asked in the quiz. Once you complete that quiz, you will receive badges from there. Now let's look at the Android thing, which we were supposed to see earlier. Okay, is my Android Studio screen visible?
Yes.
Okay.
Visible. Yes.
Okay, so this part right here is your editor, where you edit the code and you basically program. And like I said, the main activity is where your app just gives the control over to first, and this part over here is where you can see the files of your project. You can see since this is a very plain simple app, there are not much files here. But if you want to add a new activity or new feature, you'll keep adding files here. And let's look at this particular file called activitymain.xml. So you people might know about HTML, right? Which is nothing but it provides a skeleton skeleton for your website, for your web page, like it defines the basic layout of your web page. The same way the XML file defines the basic layout of your, the activity or the current screen that you will be displaying. So like you see here, this is basically the design. So you can see the hello world text box at the center. These are there are options that you could do here, like text view, button, image view, and inside the text you have a lot of options like password and everything. So if you want to add a button, the easiest way is just to take this and drag and put it here. So now you have a button in the screen. So you can drag it anywhere you want, and this is actually not how we'll be working with adding stuff in it, but this is just an idea about how you design your UI. And once your UI is ready, you go to this page again, and then you start coding here. So let's look at the parts of this Android Studio. So this is your the top bar where you have file, edit, and the stuff you actually have in a lot of, you generally have in a lot of apps. So next comes the toolbar. So here this button is nothing but it builds your project. What is meant by building? So you have a lot of code written, and you have these XML files which are nothing but the layouts of your UI. And how do you make these into an APK file? That is where this build process comes into picture. The build process does not actually result in the giving out the APK, but it's the process. It's the first step in building your APK. And then here, this is where you would run the apps that you make and check how they perform on your mobile. Once you connect your Android mobile with your computer, and you need to enable developer options in your Android mobile, you can just Google how to enable developer options for the mobile that you have. It's pretty simple. And once you do that and you connect your Android device to your computer, you will find your mobile mentioned here in this no devices, in the place where it's right now it says no devices. So once you click it, and this is the run button, once you run this, you will get your get the app on your mobile installed, and you can view your app right there. I don't think you need to know about the rest of the buttons right now, but we'll look at them later. Let's just move straight to the bottom bar. Here you can see the to-dos, like you can just simply mention to do or something, and you'll, so this would be shown here, like, oh, you have mentioned a to-do in to-do here, so you can finish it later. Like if you want to remind yourself that this part has to be completed, you can just do this. And this is a terminal that you have here. You don't have to worry about the terminal right now. And this is the build log where, like I said, you build something to see how it works, or it's the first step of building your APK. If something goes wrong, you can see what went wrong with the build process. And this is the log cat. I mean, this is the most important part, I would say, because it's like if you have worked with C++, it's like cout, and if you want to check something, or if you want to print something like for debugging, you just it's called a logging process, and you log it. You write the log code here, and you can see the log output here. For example, let's say I have the variable x equals to 5 and y equals to 5, and I'm changing the value of x equals to 10 in some other block of code, and I want to check what is the value of x now. What I do is I log the value of x, and I can see what the value of x here. That is how this logger works. And profiler and database inspector, you don't have to worry about them now. We'll look at them later. And I think that these are pretty much what you will be needing to write your first apps using Android. Okay, now let's look at the official Kotlin web page. This is one of the methods that Kotlin uses to teach you Kotlin. There are other ways like Kotlin cones, which you will be doing after this, and there is also the documentation that you could refer about Kotlin. So here you can by when you keep learning it, you can also type, you can code by yourself, and you can also learn while you are while you go through this page. First of all, you have function main and println hello world. You just run this and you get hello world. It's just pretty simple, and you don't have to worry about packages right now. We'll look at it. We'll look at them later. Just know that fun is the keyword for function, and main function is the entry point of your Kotlin program. Yes, now let's look at function. Like I said, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Like in C++, we have like header files. Don't we have that in this? Like
No,
in C++, we
no.
have header files. No?
Yes, yes. You don't need header files. You don't need header files right now, but if you, like I said, you have this. In the slide, you would have seen the square root function, right? The Kotlin dot
Yes.
math dot square root. So when cases like that come into picture, we'll write something called import Kotlin dot math dot square root, and you can use square root right away. Like instead of Kotlin dot
Anywhere in
math
the
dot
code.
square root, yeah, anywhere in the code. So it's not actually
Yes.
needed to import those, because actually we'll look at that. We'll look into it later. But you don't actually need to import anything, to be able to program in Kotlin. Fine.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, let's look at it. Let's look at functions and the different ways and different methods of writing a function. Print message is nothing but the name of the function, and message is the arguments that the function takes. As you can see, the type of the message is string, and here it's unit. So unit is nothing but it's almost it's like the equivalent of null or void. Like void, you would have seen void means the function is not going to return anything. So the same way the unit acts like that, and it's not actually needed to mention this unit. It's the default return type of a function is unit. So it just prints the message. That's it. This is a pretty simple definition of a function. Let's then look at function print message with prefix. Like you can see here, you have the same argument message, which is of the type string here, and then you have something called the argument prefix, whose type is again string, is equal to info. So what this does is it just says that info is the default value of prefix. Okay, so if let's say I'm calling the print message with prefix function with one parameter, like let's say hello. So the hello goes to the parameter message. So what happens to this prefix? Because I didn't give I didn't pass a variable to prefix. So in that case, the value info goes to a prefix, which is nothing but the default value for prefix. So this is how you mention default values for variables in your functions. And println, you can see the template expressions here. So dollar prefix is going to print the value of prefix, and dollar message is going to print the value of message, which is nothing but the string that are passed to these functions. Then function sum x is of type int.
Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Like, why are you using that box bracket over there?
No, that is you don't have to use it. That's just something to indicate the prefix stuff.
Okay.
It's not needed.
What will be printed if we type that second statement, like println prefix and message statement? What will be printed? Message, info message will be printed, I guess.
Okay, so you can see this call, right? Print message with prefix.
Yes.
Hello and log are given. So in this
Yes.
case, you'll get log hello. Fine.
Okay.
And in this case, print message with prefix, which has just hello, you'll get info hello. Clear, right?
Okay.
And here, moving to this part, print message with prefix, prefix equal to log, message equal to hello, you'll again get log message. Fine.
Log hello.
Yeah, sorry, log hello. Fine.
Okay.
So why this case is special is that, as you can see, message is the first parameter, in the function definition, and prefix is the second parameter in the function definition, right? But if you want to pass prefix before message, you have to explicitly write prefix equal to log and message equal to hello. Cool?
In this case, shouldn't we use dollar prefix is equal to log?
Sorry? No.
Like
Where here do you want to put dollar?
yes.
No. See, like I told, dollar would come only inside string literals.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so normally what happens in a string literal in C++ and Java, whatever is there in a string literal, the language doesn't mind about it and it just simply prints as it is. Fine. But in Kotlin, you want to put a variable inside a string literal which changes its value when the variable's value changes. Fine. At that time, you use a string literal. Only then.
Yes.
Fine. Okay. So let's look at the next function here. Sum and x is of type int and y is of type int and the return type is also int. This is just a simple function, like it's pretty easier to understand. You return x plus y and you pass two variables, it's going to return the sum of them. And then let's look at the function multiply x, takes two arguments, x of type int, y of type int. You can see the equal to sign here, x into y. Like I already said, the equal to sign just says that this function is going to return whatever the value is on the right side of this equal to. Fine. So you just give the you write x into y on the right side. This function is going to return x into y. So let's run this entire block, and you can see whatever we wrote here is being displayed like as we expected. Here you should know that you can also change this statement and make it simple, like x plus y, and this would still give the same results. It's still 3. Fine. So this is just your choice of writing the way how you want. You can write either this return x plus y, or you can avoid these brackets and you can just simply write equals x plus y. It's up to you. Fine, right? Any confusion here?
It is dependent on like speed. If we write like equal to x into y.
No. It's completely up to you, and it's more easier to read if it's this way.
Yes.
Fine, right? Okay. So I think you now have. No, like I said, you don't have to always explicitly mention the return type because Kotlin can infer what type it's being returned. So it's not actually required in any of these cases, but when you for the parameters, it's required that you mention the type of the variables that will be passed to the function as arguments. Cool, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move ahead, and I don't think you have to worry about infix functions right now or the operator function and all. Yeah, let's move to variables now. So like I said, Kotlin has a powerful type inference and it can infer what the type of the variable is just from that the statement. And var is mutable, which means that you can change it. and val is immutable and you are not supposed to change it. As you can see here, you don't have to mention the type of the variable as well, or if you mention it also, it is fine. Cool. You can just go through these by yourself also. I'm just explaining them to have a better understanding, for you to have a better understanding. Don't worry about null safety, classes, generics, inheritance, and all. Now we look at them, in the next track, which is nothing but people who have prior programming experience after we have a good understanding of Android. So now let's move to the control flow statements, which is first we'll look at when, which is the equivalent of switch statement in C++ in Java. So like I said, if can be used as a statement or as an expression. What is the difference between a statement and an expression is that an expression returns a value and a statement just does what is shown there. So the same way, when can also be used as a statement and an expression, meaning that when can also return a variable, return a value. Here you can see that just focus on this block. When you have the object, and if it's 1 you print 1, if it's hello you print greeting and such, and you call cases with these arguments. You can go and run this and you can modify them and you can see how these works once the session gets over. Yeah, this, like I told, you have when expression, meaning that when returns a value, like val result equals to when, and then the rest of the when body, which means whatever when returns is going to be stored in this result.
Can you please explain the meaning of is again? I mean, what does it do?
Okay, so let's take this example, and if you look at this 0L, right, which is nothing but if I just write 0, it becomes an int. Okay, but if I write a capital L, if I append a capital L next to this number, this particular Kotlin would infer this as long type, and it's not going to affect anything else. It's just going to say Kotlin that this variable is of type long. Fine, right? So now I call this cases 1L, which is nothing but it's gonna send this 1L as the object for this when statement. So once it goes in, it's gonna check if it's 1. So it might be a surprise, but 1L and 1 are not the same. So this statement is not going to get printed when this 1L is passed to this when. Fine, it's gonna move on. So it's gonna go to hello. I mean, 1L is not hello. So this is gonna Kotlin is not gonna consider this. And then there is long. So what is the role of is that is checks the type of the value that you want to check. So 1L is long. Yes, it's true. So it's gonna print long. Fine. So that is the role of is. And let's say let's take this case of 0. Okay, so it's gonna see 0 is not 1, so skip this. It's not hello, skip this. It's long. No, 0 is of type int and is not string. Yes, 0 is of type int and it's not of type string, so you will get not a string printed. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Does any
Okay.
means like any variable
Yeah,
type?
yes, this can be this just means that it can be of any type, int, long, double, boolean,
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
Because it's required that the arguments or parameters of a function have a variable type specified. If you don't know what it's going to be, you can simply write any.
Okay.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah, could
Long
you
is
please
a
explain what is the use of cases? And how does that work? The cases keyword.
No, the cases is just it's just another function that is being called here from here.
Okay.
So this is just for you to understand. Like, let's say let's just remove these cases. Fine. And let's go here. Instead of this object, I'm going to just put 0 here. Cool. And remove everything here. Okay. So I'm just going to run this. One sec. Sorry for this. Okay. Cool, right? So I first declare a variable called object, which is which can be of type any, and I just assign it 0. Fine, and then I use the switch or when statement, and I pass this object into it, and it's gonna check 0 against everything, and it's saying me that it's not a string.
Yeah. Okay.
Fine, right? So that cases was like it's easier to call this when function multiple times to show you what happens with each and every case.
Oh.
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so moving on, let's look at loops now. Like I wrote previously, you can see list of, which would just create a list. And for it's stored in a variable called cakes. And for cake in cakes, you print yummy, it's a $cake. Fine. So let's look at what it gives us. So first you have carrot cake, cheesecake, and chocolate cake. So let's see what this $cake, why it's useful here. So normally what you would do is you will print this. Fine. You would print yummy, it's a, and then you print cake, and then you print println. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the difference between print and println. Print is just gonna print whatever is being given, and that's it. And println would just print it and then move the cursor to the next line. That's it. So let's run this, and as you can see, this is the exact output which we were getting. So this is where the string literal or the dollar sign is helpful. I can just remove this, and I can just I need the different types of cake here, right? So every time this cake changes, I need this variable to reflect carrot, cheese, and chocolate. So I add a dollar sign here, and yes, you have what you need, and you get this. Cool. Is the template expression thing clear?
Does Kotlin have escape sequences like newline?
Newline is you can just do println what we have been doing. I'm not sure if it has escape sequences, but yeah, I'll check, and you can also check. You can Google it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So if you are clear with this is an example that we already looked at. So let's move ahead. And while and do while, they work like they used to do in C++ and Java. So I think most of you would know that. So let's move ahead. And let's come to iterators. Like I said, if you give for an iterator, it would run. Like, fine. So you might not know about classes yet, but okay, so I would say that you need not worry about iterators for now. Just remember that the in would give an iterator, like whatever is there in zoo. It would take each and every element one by one, and it would put it in animal. Cool, right? So don't worry about it now. Let's look at them later. And yeah, ranges. So this is a pretty interesting part. You can just see this code, and you can you can yourself figure out how it works. So first, for I in 0 dot dot 3. So 0 dot dot 3 is nothing but a range. So it has 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is a range, and you use the keyword in. So what would it do? It gives an iterator to for, and first it takes 0 and it puts an I, then it takes 1 and it puts an I, and so on. So if you print this, you can see that you get 0, 1, 2, 3. Fine. So that's how this range works. You use dot dot to mention the range, and you then have for I in 0 until 3. So this is another way how you could define a range if you don't want to use dot dot. So again, this would do the same thing like above. And here you have something. Yes.
While using
Could you explain what an iterator is?
Okay, yeah, like I said, it's enough for you to for now to know that an iterator, the job of the iterator is to take each and every element in the range or array or list and give it to the variable on the left side of it.
Okay.
Cool.
While using
So
until,
okay.
Like, will the last value not be included? Like 0 until 3, but in the print 3 was not included.
Yeah, it will. That is the difference between this and this.
Okay.
Fine. So if you do until 4, you will get the same thing as the previous one. Fine. So 0 until 3, you will have the range from 0, 1, 2, and the use of the keyword in would make the iterator give I 0 to I first, and then 1 to I, and then 2 to I. That's it. Fine. Then moving on to the next block, you have the range 2 to 8 and step 2. This is nothing but asking the iterator to go 2 steps ahead at each step. Fine. So the range is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the iterator would give 2, and then it would step up by 2. So it gives 4 the next as the next element to I. Fine. Any doubts here? Okay. So the same way. You have I in 3 down to 0, which is nothing but the opposite of except here both of these numbers are included. So these might be confusing for you people right now, but once you get the hang of it, or you experiment it with get your hands experimenting with it, it would become easier, much easier, and you don't have to remember all of these. Just stick with whatever is your favorite among these, and you will be good to go. So this range thing can also be used with characters, like for C in A to D, print C. So it would print all the characters. Let's just play with this. So for C in A, the range operation till Z. So
Can't we
this is
use I
going
in place of C here?
Yeah, you can for I, and then you have to change print I. Works, yeah. So the job of the iterator is to take the elements one by one and put it in the variable on the left side of in, whatever that variable might be. You get my point? Okay, so the same way you have C in Z, let's say down to A, and now you step 2. This means you print the alphabets in the reverse order and you skip one element in between. So let's just print this. Yeah, you have Z, you leave out Y, and then you print X. So this is pretty simple to understand, I think, and let's move on. So another place where ranges can be useful, val x equals to 2, fine. And if x in 1 to 5, you print x is in the range from 1 to 5. And else, just print x is not in range 1 to 5. Fine, works here. So basically, ranges are a very helpful tool. Like you can just write 1 and double dot 5. So you have this set of numbers from 1 to 5. So that is pretty much what you need to know about ranges. And I don't think you will be using ranges with a lot with Android development, but it's good to learn about ranges in general.
How do we
And
use inside the if loop, if operator?
sorry,
Because in is an iterator, right? So it will give
no,
1
no,
to
no.
5.
In is not an iterator, but in for loop it does that job, and in this if it does this job. I never mentioned that in is the actual iterator, but
Okay.
Kotlin makes in works that way. Fine. You can also use the not in operator as well.
Can we use is over there?
Yeah, you can still use that. I mean, here then you have to check if x is int, print x is int. Fine.
Okay. But we can't use is to check whether it's in 1 to 5.
No, you can't write x is 1. I'm not sure if it would work. It's giving us an error. So you can just write in ranges.
Okay.
Cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where things get a little, difficult or confusing to understand. The difference between double equals to sign and triple equals to sign. Fine. So how do I explain this? So let's take A equals to B. So what it actually does is, if A is equal to null, then B should also be equal to null, or A dot equals B. Okay, I don't think this thing is important right now. We'll come back to this later. I'll get you a better example which is easier to understand. So just chuck this for now, and let's go to conditional expressions. So we just already looked at the conditional expressions in the examples which we saw earlier. Like I said, if is an expression, which means that if can return a value. So you might have seen this question mark or the ternary operator in C++. That is not needed here because if can itself do the job of returning the value. So the function max of a comma b, if a is greater than b, you return a, else b. So the thing about if being an expression is that you don't have to explicitly mention return a, else return b, but since it's an expression, these return keywords are not required, and Kotlin can pretty much do the job without these return, and if can return the value of whatever is given to it. Yes, I think this much Kotlin is pretty much enough for you people to get started with Android development. And okay, I've given the links for Kotlin cons as well. let me show you what it is. Okay, so this is the Kotlin cones page. There's a series of exercises where you will start from very basic, Kotlin stuff to advanced Kotlin. So here, yeah, you will have the here you will have the first exercise, which is nothing but you have to take a look at function syntax and make the function start. Return the string okay. So what you could do is you can return okay, which is the pretty much what we used to do in other languages. You run it, you get okay. But you can also do this like we learned. You can do equals to okay. This is also accepted in Kotlin. Yes, the tests are passed, and you can go to the next cone and you can do the rest of the exercises. And this you can also find the tutorials for the each and every exercise here. So doing this would be a really good practice for you, or you can also do if you have some other sites where you could practice Kotlin. So get your hands-on experience with Kotlin, and you'll be pretty much ready for working with Android.
What website was that on which there were exercises?
Okay, so all of the websites that I showed you are all present in the slides. So the slides will be available for you once the session gets over. So don't worry about those links. We look at them.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. So let's go over the slides again, like a recap or something. And first, I'm sure many of you would have installed Android Studio. If not, make sure you get them ready by the next session. And you make sure you go through the intro page of Android Studio. You can find some valuable information, or if you have some doubts, you can look it up there about Android Studio. And we just saw about the basic working of Kotlin and how we write code in Kotlin. And there is this Kotlin tutorial in this site, the link mentioned here. And Kotlin cones is present here. One more thing about Kotlin cones is the Kotlin cones contains both basic level exercises and advanced level exercises. And all of these are intermixed with each other. So if you find some exercises very difficult, just skip them and go to the next one. Make sure get your hands get it dirty with Kotlin. And then we saw about the basic types of commonly used basic types like int, float, and char, boolean, and all. And variables declared as val cannot be changed, and variables declared as var can be reassigned. And you don't have to specifically mention the type of variable. Kotlin can infer the type of variable like int, float by itself, and there is no trouble even in mentioning the type of the variable also. And you use the keyword fun to define a function, and you have to mention the type of the variable, type of the parameters that will be passed to the function. And you can also mention the type of the return value of the function. And defining the types anywhere across Kotlin will be by using a colon and the type of the variable followed by it. And then we looked at the conditional statements like if else, and when. I think you might have a good understanding about this. If not, go back to the examples pages whose links are there, and you test your hand out there. And you also saw about loops, and just understand that iterator means that it gives the elements of a list or item or range one by one to the variable on the left side of in. And while works the pretty much the same way. And I've given the course where you can go look at some videos and answer the quiz and earn your badges in the Google developer site. This process is compulsory that you earn your badges across the Android study jams. Once you complete the study jams, we'll need the screenshot of your developer profile with all these badges to be eligible to get the certificate. Yep, guys, I think we have come to the end of session 1. I hope that you people learned a lot about Kotlin, and it acts as a good foundation for you to learn more about Kotlin. And one thing I would like to make clear about the study jams is that Kotlin, Android, and all are very, very vast, and it's not really possible for us to cover each and every aspect of it during study jams. So you people have to get the basics that I teach, and then go back to your computer and learn and get hands-on experience. Only then you'll get to know about your shortcomings or your misunderstandings or the stuff that you don't know. I think we can end the session. Is there any other doubt or any feedback that you want to give?
Is Java necessary for app development?
No, it's not. Like I said, Android itself is pushing towards using Kotlin as the major language for Android development. So you need not worry about knowing Java or not knowing Java for Android development.
And even you told that you have to send the screenshot of the batches. Like, where should we send? Like, if
No, don't worry about them. I just told that to make sure that your people complete those quiz and earn the badges.
Okay.
Just focus on completing the quiz and earn the badges. All of the links are present there. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other doubts or questions?
Will be our next session?
I'm not sure. You people take 2 or 3 days, or you can also tell us when you want the next session. You do some exercises in Kotlin, or go to some other websites. Do some exercises, or do some programming questions in Kotlin. Whatever works for you, and then even you can suggest us when you want the next session, or we'll have it in around after 3 days or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other